It's recording. Hey, this is April 21st. All the days kind of blend together after a while. It's not a weekend, technically. Anyway, this is advanced class, and we're going to get into more gospel according to Larry. I do have information-y things for you. I tried to switch some things around, and then we're also going to get to read and discuss and stuff like that. I'm going to show you the calendar and schedule coming up for this week, and all kinds of somewhat exciting things from there. I will say I have learned that during this whole coronavirus thing, having two teenagers in my own house who are trying to learn how to do it, I think e-learning is way more challenging and difficult than people have given it credit for. You have to be fairly organized to not fall behind on things because it's hard to keep track of all the different assignments you have. For my classes, it was like before spring break, we had the 2 weeks of Greek mythology. I think I had 90% of our kids turn in their stuff. Last week, after we got back from spring break, I had 50% of our kids turn in stuff. And I still have about one in every 4 kids has not turned in anything from last week. I just skipped the entire week. And I think a lot of it, kids are like watching the videos, because I see the kids like in videos and then they don't go do the work. And so I think you guys like enjoy watching the video and hearing me babble, but then not actually going and doing the work. It's not like I give you guys a lot of work to do, but anyway, enough babbling about that. So then let me go to screen share. And then to there, I have gotten a lot better at doing this whole thing and kicking people out that are not supposed to be in. All right, and becoming slightly more efficient at things. Come on, click. That's not me. This is the computer. There we go. Again, if you have a question, no, wrong one. I bragged and then I messed it up because I'm an embarrassment to myself. And hey, there we go. Now we're working. All right. Let's see. Things that I have for you. Skyward is updated through this morning. I went through, and if you've taken a test, if you've sent me a message, if you've done a thing, it is updated. So Skyward, as of this moment, has all grades that have been turned into me. If you look on Skyward and don't see a thing, it's because you did not give me a thing. So apparently some people don't know how email works because you're supposed to email me late assignments. If you don't know what my email address is, that's literally on the e-learning page and on my website and on the Fisher Junior High website. You can email it to me. If you do get Zoom banned, then you just watch the video later because, again, I have kids who make choices. I found out that apparently I can't let kids sit in there and just be anonymous because then they make poor choices, which ironically enough, goes to the book we're reading. And we talked about the idea of being anonymous on the internet. And then I have kids who come into Zoom and are anonymous and they act like little turds. Then I have to boot them out and kick them and stuff like that. So I found it ironic that I had to sort of go through the whole thing. If you've not turned in work from last week and it says it is missing on Skyward, it is now a late grade, which means it does give you a slight negative to it. And that is from the school and from the district. We're apparently supposed to start being meaner to kids. So you have until the following, it's supposed to be Monday, but I gave you until literally 10 a.m. So as long as it was turned in by then I gave you credit. Starting now, if you turn it in, I'll still give you credit, but it does become a late grade. And you guys are going to be reading Gospel on your own eventually because, one, it's a really easy book. Some of you guys are going to end up reading like the whole thing in just a couple of days, but there's still things we'll go through and do and talk about. Spirit Week, I sent out my picture yesterday of me cuddling with my pups. Today, I'm going to be sending out a picture of my manicured toes. Sorry, not manicured. That's embarrassing. Pedicured toes. And so I'll be sending that out to you. So hashtag win the things and stuff like that. And so, again, tomorrow is Spirit Wear, which apparently it looked like Colin was trying to go ahead and start early with his rockin' hat. But take a picture for tomorrow, Colin. You can set it on Spirit Wear. Thursday is your throwback pictures, and then Friday is dress for success. I'm assuming that means you're going to dress in a tie like me, but to each their own. All right. There we go. And let's see. So I redid my e-learning page because I had kids who were having struggles and complaining. So I went back and rewrote the whole thing. So if you've not been to the e-learning page, it now looks like this to try and make things a bit easier for you to understand. So the first part is just in general, it talks about e-learning. Below that, it talks about once an assignment is late, what you're going to have to do with my email address. And it tells you what to do for late assignments, because late assignments you have to email to me because that's how I find them. Unless it's missing the, well, you guys are not, it's like missing the test, but you guys aren't missing the test. I think all my advanced kids have turned theirs in. Then on there also, I am now going to be putting up what you're doing for the week so that you can take a look at it. And then you scroll down and you find each day and it tells you what to do for the day. I do not put the question on there. The question is in the video to make sure that you're actually watching the video, because again, lazy kids, it's all fun and games. The lazy kids ruin things. And then the videos are right below that. So that was my goal, to try and make it easier. So if you go back to the site now, it should be even easier to figure out things. Although for the most part, if you just watch the video each day and then do the thing while you're doing the video, then you don't have to really worry about it. This is more for the kids who have late work to turn in, but I'm trying. Schedule for this week, what we're planning on doing. We're going to be watching the video today. There's a Socratic question. Tomorrow, another video, a bit more reading, another Socratic question. Thursday, really short video because I'm giving you a homework thing to work on. And so on that one, it's probably only going to be like a 5 to 10 minute video at the longest. And then there's an assignment on Canvas you're going to turn in, because we're going to be opening up a chat room, and you guys are going to be going into a chat room to talk to each other. And there's going to be a thing you have to put onto there for an assignment. And then Friday, nothing. So that's our week coming up. So you're going to have Socratic question, and then Thursday, no Socratic question. You have a Canvas thing that you're going to have to do, but I'll explain more of that when we get to it. Yes, my random child. Hey, what's up? So here's going to be your Socratic question for today. No, I don't think they can see you. Maybe they can. We'll find out if any random creepy kid can see you giving me a hug. That's fine. So back to here. So if you are wanting to screenshot this, if you're one of those kids who realizes later on you'll have to go back to the video, here's my hint. Screenshot this now to try and help you out. All right. So the room name for today, I'm going to keep it open for today only, and then I'm going to shut it down, is the Brovi 42120. So I'm doing new room names and then closing them and rotating and stuff like that. So it's just Brovi with today's date. So your question is, explain one negative character trait that Josh has that annoys you and one positive trait that he has that would make you want to be his friend. This is only about Josh, because we're going to find out a lot about Josh today. So I just want you to tell me a thing that makes you think that he's good and a thing that makes you think he's bad. One of each. And on Skyward, if you see that you are getting like a 4 out of 5, it means that you have bad grammar. You're not capitalizing the letter I or capitalizing a character's name or not putting a period or something like that. If you do that, I drop you down to a 4. If you ever see that you have a 1, that means you logged in but did not submit an answer. And I have a lot of kids who log into Socrative, type in their name, and then that's it. So I give you 1 point for logging in, but you don't get any other points for doing stuff. You can always go back and fix anything that's lower than a 4 or lower than a 4, you can fix, and that's fine with me. All right. Now to our actual learning and getting into stuff for today. That was all the backgroundy stuff today. Today we get into actual booky things, and then there. So now settle down, get comfortable, clear off your random spot on your bed or wherever you're hiding underneath the desk or looking at some of your pictures. Looks like playing with a switch while you're listening to me. Whatever random thing it is you may be doing. And we're going to talk about gospelaccordingtolarry.com. Let's see, we talked about Walden and civil disobedience. That guy's got a boss, coronavirus beard going on right there. Let's see, we got into this. I did send out the remind last week, hoping that you guys did get a chance to go in and watch Monty Python. If you did not, shame on you, because it is definitely a great way to use your time. But Monty Python is the bomb diggityest. And then Groundhog Day, if you've not seen that, there's not a whole lot I can do for you. All right, wait, no, we did get far enough. We got to here. We did talk about advertising. They do talk about, as he gets really, this Larry guy on the website goes into the idea of advertising and how you should not follow what corporations say. You know, think for yourself, do what you want to do. Don't worry about what others tell you to do. And hopefully you guys used, I think it was cuneiform, to describe your parents to try and get yourselves into a fight, because that was going to be absolutely adorable if you did something like that. All right. For those of you who have your book, because, I did find out that they are not letting teachers into buildings until May. So for those of you who I said I was going to happily go into the school to get your stuff, I still will. We just don't know when that's going to be yet, because they told teachers that we're not allowed in until sometime in May. For all we know, it might not be until the end of May. I hope not, but we're going to find out. All right. We're going to start on page 20. I'm going to pick up and have some more things for you as we're going through figuring out your good things and bad things about Josh. We're going to sort of find out more things from there. I believe, hang on one second, I'll make sure I can see chat. All right. If you have a question, you're more than welcome to speak up and let me know. I have the chat up, and I have all of your your faces up and stuff like that. so that way I can see if you have a question, and then should be able to quickly call on you if you have one. All right, but back to here. Let's see, we're going to talk about he's going to be talking about Bloomingdales in just a moment, which is a store. If you've ever been to the mall, they have like Macy's and like Lazarus, Sears. Bloomingdales is just a fancy shopping store they have, like in New York and things like that. All right. Page 20. Beth made a list of all the kids in our homeroom and who they had been in a past life. We passed the list back and forth, filling in the blanks. Jack Furtado, Victorian cellist. Laura Newman, Russian cosmonaut, until the bell rang. Out in the hall, my enthusiasm pinned Beth to her locker. You're right. Everything Larry wrote about on his website had something to do with my life. Didn't I tell you? She couldn't have been happier. When I thought about what a consumer glutton my stepfather's girlfriend was, Larry wrote about shopaholics. When I missed my mother, he talked about attachment. It was uncanny. I didn't want to lay it on too thick. Beth's lips shone like hot mocha coffee. He puts into words exactly what we're thinking. She corrected herself immediately. I mean, he or she. But what's with the photos? I asked. Are we supposed to guess Larry's identity? Well, Larry has less than 80 possessions. He posts them on his website, a few at a time, daring people to guess who he is. Right now, everyone's clueless. I mean, what can you tell from a pen and a hairbrush? I don't know. Maybe you'll be lucky, and the next clue will be his or her. Right. License. Beth smiled. I'm sure Larry is saving that one for last. I asked her if she wanted to come over later and talk about my ideas for the club. She frowned. I can't. I have to study for that calculus test. Beth was a lot of things. Gorgeous, smart, determined. She also was a terrible liar. I stared her down. Okay, I promised I'd help my father with inventory. I kept staring. Dang it, Josh. I told Todd I'd help him clean his basement tonight. Okay? Could you please explain how someone as committed to personal growth as you are can vacuum the basement of the class cretin just because she thinks she's in love with him? I don't want to hear it, Beth barked back. There's no one more inconsistent than you. You are a computer geek who hikes in the woods for days. You hate to buy things, yet you always go to Bloomingdales. That's different, but forget it. You made your point. She was just gearing up, though. Look, you're my best friend. We've been bailing each other out since grade school, but not everyone wants to go through life being a hermit, living in the world of ideas. She made quotation marks with her fingers when she said the word ideas. It was one of the only things that Beth did that drove me out of my mind. She finally got around to sputtering out the truth about Todd. He's the only cool guy who's ever liked me. I know he can act like a jerk, but do you mind if I let his popularity just rub off on me for a while? For some reason, the bare bones honesty of her plea only fueled my growing sense of annoyance. I'm out of here, and I made those fake quotation marks around the word out, then walked toward lit class. I could feel her behind me even before she spun me around to face her. I hate fighting with you, she said. Hate it, hate it. Hate it. We stood silently for a few minutes. Okay, it's just that Todd has to have the basement cleaned by this weekend, or he can't play. I'm trying to have some school spirit for once. Plus, he knows I'm really good at organizing things. I wanted to tell her those skills might be put to better use than placing football and basketball trophies in chronological order, but I held my tongue. Instead, I told her I had lots to do, tons to do, was way too busy to deal with this paltry exchange. I shuffled away as nonchalantly as someone in deep despair could shuffle. My anxiety around Beth could be traced to one thing. I was never included in the endlessly rotating list of guys she had crushes on. Sam, Daniel, Andy, Speedy McDermott, Jack, now Todd, but never, ever me. If the choice were a 2-week exciting vacation in Europe with me or helping Todd clean his basement, I knew sadly what Beth's choice would be. Next stop in my fun-filled day, guidance with Miss Phillips. I tried to rally myself for the occasion by doing some standing push-ups against my locker. Hang on real quick. I'm going to stop the share and go back to me. Hopefully you guys see my hands. She says they do the fake quotation marks. Do you guys know what fake quotation marks are? Ooh, we'll do our ASL here. All right. So you guys, you do know what quotation marks are when they talk nicely done. I couldn't tell, some of you guys were just doing like bunny ears on that one, so you got excited. All right. I'll go back to sharing in a moment. I just wanted to have you guys see my lovely face until we get there. I haven't even sat down when fun part coming up here. When Miss Phillips got to the point. Have you thought about your major, Josh? Miss Phillips had the terrible habit of pushing her glasses up her nose with her middle finger. She did it so often, everyone in school called her Flip-Off Phillips. So again, not using that actual finger, but when her glasses fall down, she pushes the finger up like that. Before you got too excited. So pushes them back up her nose like that one. So that's why they call her Flip-Off Phillips, because she does it a lot throughout the entire story. I played with the zipper of my book bag, then realized I was not giving her my full attention. Larry's sermon number 22. I looked her in the eyes. I was thinking about philosophy, the meaning of life and that sort of thing. From the point of view of someone who likes to read, likes to think like you do, it's a good choice, she said. But you realize the job prospects are pretty slim. Well, I'm thinking after the Depression, after the apocalypse, after the coronavirus, there'll be lots of positions for people with depth and vision. I might have added that part. She crinkled up her nose and her glasses fell, and she flipped me the bird again. Josh, I'm not sure it makes sense to plan a career based on an apocalypse. All right, quick timeout. So this has been hilarious for all the years I've been teaching it about the idea of ha, 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 us going through an apocalypse. Now all of a sudden I'm reading this part, we're kind of going through an apocalypse right here at this moment, and the book has taken on a whole different meaning. So sadness. Sorry, then the next line. What if there isn't one? He says, reading a book while we're currently going through the apocalypse. Then I guess I'm screwed. I flashed her a big smile so she couldn't yell at me for the language. I suppose I'm being too materialistic, she said. Studying philosophy at Princeton is a fine and worthy choice. I wasn't sure Miss Phillips's revelation came less from my sales pitch than it did from the fact that it was 10 to 11 and she was dying for a cigarette before her next appointment. I decided to let her off the nicotine hook. I gathered up my things and headed for the door. I've had a soft spot in my heart for Miss Phillips since last year when I spotted her email address in her office and started up a chatty internet conversation with her as a 40-year-old bachelor from Portland. Footnote. I don't care what anyone says, I was not going through her desk. After months of quiet online flirtation, I invited her to meet me at the Borders coffee shop. That's what we call it. It was a bookstore that used to exist before Amazon put it out of business. It was a store you could go to and buy actual books on shelves, only to watch her from the cookbook section. She waited more than 2 hours and 3 cappuccinos before she went home. Okay, that I felt bad about. Miss Phillips was usually tough as nails. I never thought she'd fall that hard. So yes, for those of you wondering, yes, he did catfish his guidance counselor and convince her to go to a bookstore to go meet a date because she was lonely and wanted to go meet a man, and then stood her up and then watched her suspiciously from behind books. That's a thing that I'm sure every kid has done at some point in their life. I decided to skip the rest of the day. The reoccurring vision of Beth, dressed up like Snow White, singing as she swept Todd Terrific's basement, was more than I could endure. I grabbed my camera from my locker and opted to check in with my mother instead. When my stepfather visited Mom, he headed for the cemetery. I, who knew her much better than he did, headed for somewhere that captured her spirit more than a pasture full of granite headstones. The makeup counter at Bloomingdales. Let's go back to sharing. There you go. So back to the Bloomingdales. This is what they're talking about. And then when he says that he goes to the makeup counter, this is, come on, computer. You can do it. Go to the next screen. There you go. This is the makeup counter that he's referring to. So many people, you may very well know what he's referring to when you go and you get your face did, or your mom goes and gets her face done. Dudes, you may not be quite as familiar. It's the place that when you go to the mall or that store, you hold your breath and you run really fast through it because it has all the weird girl smells. This is where he goes to hang out. But there's a reason before you think it's too creepy. It makes sense. The makeup counter at Bloomingdales. I slogged through the slush, remember, it's wintertime, then grabbed the bus to Chestnut Hill. Ever since we lived in the Boston area, my mother had dragged me here once a month. The waft of perfumes hit me like a surge of memories. I plopped down in the tall seat at the Chanel counter. I think it's safe to say I was the only person in that department sitting in the lotus position. Again, this is going to be a yoga thing for those of you who are paying attention to PE when they're making you do your yoga stuff. This might make sense to you. But this is the yoga position. I would attempt to show you the yoga position myself and click back to a view of me, but you would just see an old man's bones creak and then fall apart and then have him make weird sounds as he falls to the ground screaming. So instead, look at this picture of a man who's older than me, who is apparently much more flexible. So I'm just going to shame myself with this picture here. Hello, Joshy. How's it going? Marlene, the beauty doctor, has been working here for more than 20 years with her, going back to me, shiny helmet of dyed black hair and dark eyebrows penciled in for the one she lost years ago. She was Mom's favorite salesperson. It's slow, so you can sit. If I get a client, you know the drill. I saluted and then leaned back to hang with Mom. My mother bailed on her wealthy parents' expectations as soon as she hit college. Instead of following in their Wall Street footsteps, she hitchhiked cross-country, worked tirelessly for civil rights, and made some bad choices in men. One thing from her Grosse Pointe background, Grosse Pointe is a super fancy neighborhood that's in Michigan, I think. It's sort of like our version of Carmel or something like that, where all the rich people go in. Let's see. Grosse Pointe. She couldn't walk away from, however, was her fondness for upscale moisturizers and creams. She used to spend hours trying to look like she wore no makeup at all. She experimented with pencils and powders like a mad scientist, but always looked the same to me. I can remember perching on the stool as a preschooler, watching Marlene hand Mom tube after tube of lipstick. Mom would ask me which color I preferred, consider my answer, then buy whichever one she wanted anyway. I waited till Marlene rang someone up at the other end of the counter before I started talking. So, real quick, the timeout. The reason he goes to the makeup counter here at Bloomingdale's is to connect with his mom. Or hopefully, remember, Mom died of the whole cancer thing, the whole sadness. And so he says, why go to a graveyard to connect with someone who's dead? Because that's not how you remember them. He wants to go here to the makeup counter because that's how he remembers his mom. And so whenever he goes here, that's how he feels the connection to her, and that's what he does on a regular basis. So this is how Josh connects to his mom, is by going to the makeup counter and then talking to the lady who always used to wait on her. And then he talks like you would at a gravesite. He talks out loud. Okay, Mom. Okay, he knows his mom is not actually there. He's just talking to her spirit. Okay, Mom. In a nutshell, Beth is cleaning Todd's basement. Peter is dragging me to another lasagna dinner at Catherine's, and I'm nowhere closer to changing the world. A woman with a leopard print hat eyed me as she walked by. I just feel like I'm waiting for my life to begin, that I've wasted 17 years. Then what? 4 years at Princeton? How does that help move civilization forward? Would you like to see our deep pore cleaning mask? Marlene inquired. I nodded. Whenever Marlene's boss circled by, I pretended I was a paying customer. If you ask me, you make it too hard on yourself. Stop worrying about civilization. Worry about staying out of trouble and making nice friends, Marlene said. She rubbed the mask onto my face in small circles. I have nice friends, I answered. All right, well, I have one nice friend. One nice friend is really all you need. Marlene watched her boss get on the escalator, then wiped off my mask with a tissue. Here. She gathered up tiny bottles of free samples and put them in a small bag with handles and gave it to me. You come back anytime. I could see Marlene eyeing a potential customer hovering over the nail polish. I saluted again and left. In the shoe department, I tried on 4 pairs of sneakers, 3 pairs of loafers, and 5 pairs of boots before the salesperson deserted me. I circled by the makeup counter on my way out. Mom? I asked. A 50-ish woman in fishnets turned around and then went back to what she was doing. Mom, you'll help me, right? With the whole change the world thing? Then I did what I always do. Yeah. When I'm needing an answer from my mother, I listened for the very next words someone said. A businessman talking on his cell phone provided her response. Yeah, he said in the phone. Of course I will. My grin spread ear to ear. When I said, thanks, Mom, the woman in fishnets turned around again. I tipped my woolen hat her way, then headed out of the store. Real quick, this is another thing that's going to pop up quite a bit. Whenever he talks to his mom, he'll then wait for any random stranger to answer, and he'll assume that's his mom, sort of like channeling her spirit through that person. So he'll go into a crowd of people and then ask a question like, hey, should I, go and cheat on my math test tomorrow? And then he'll wait until he hears the very first answer and assume that's from his mom. And that's his way of sort of connecting to her in some way. All right. The next one on page 30, that's the next picture that's Larry's posting. Only a few more minutes, then I'm going to have to let you guys go. Peter's girlfriend, hang on, I have to go back to sharing a thing. Go back to screen share so you can see this. Share to here, because they're gonna talk about the fact that she loves Humpty Dumpty, and so this is Humpty Dumpty. In case you are unaware, Peter's girlfriend Catherine had a Humpty Dumpty fetish. She collected anything poor Mr. Dumpty had affixed himself to. Salt and pepper shakers, cookie jars, puzzles, mailboxes, light switches, vases, bookends. You get the idea. Last Christmas, she gave Peter a Humpty Dumpty tie with a clumsy Humpty tumbling down the front of it. All right. Footnote, she gave me a skateboard with Humpty written across it in lightning bolt letters. It frightened me so much, I buried it under a stack of newspapers in the garage, then ended up giving it to the kid next door. Catherine was 40 pounds overweight, always smiling like the poster woman for fat, dumb, and happy jeans. Okay, footnote. Did I just say that? Horrible. Okay, I better read Larry's tolerance sermon again. She laughed nervously after everything we said and was putting in so much effort to being liked that once in a while I actually found myself rooting for her. Ah, lasagna, my favorite. Peter dug into the casserole dish like it was the first time he'd had it in months. Footnote, he and I are both better cooks than Catherine, and besides, she makes lasagna every time we come over. Very nice, I said. Now, I've told her 50 times I don't eat meat, but somehow that never seemed important enough to register on her radar screen. I filled my plate with lots of garlic bread and just tomato sauce. I'm not sure if Peter was really interested in the zany anecdote Catherine filled our airspace with, something about mixed up files at work and her crazy boss, or if he just pretended she was a client. I don't know how she did it, but the conversation ended up where it always did, at eBay and all the wonderful Humpty bargains Catherine was bidding on. I excused myself as soon as possible, saying I had lots of homework to do. As I walked into the cold night air, I banged my hand against my side of my head to empty out the cascade of Catherine's gibberish. By Porter Street, I could almost hear my own thoughts again. It was not like I was trying. Hang on one second, I gotta look at the thing. All right, so I gotta finish this chapter because there's a big thing coming up. To walk by Beth's, my feet somehow just ended up there. I'll go back to here. Just in time to catch her running up her driveway. I thought you were dusting Todd's collection of medals tonight. Give it a rest, Josh. I decided to lay off the topic until she felt like talking. We sat on her front steps and watched the flickering Christmas lights the Petersons should have taken down months ago. I hate to admit it, but you may be right, she began. Todd definitely doesn't appreciate me. That's a giant duh, she shivered. I'll die if I end up being one of those women on talk shows complaining about their lives. Hey, I'll go on and start a fight from the audience so the ratings will be high. I could never have a normal conversation like this with Todd, she said. I like how she considers this a normal conversation. I don't know why. Let's see. Because he's a moron, because he thinks memorizing football plays is more important to the planet than physics or kindness. I kept my mouth shut and started staring straight ahead at the Peterson's lights. Oh, I almost forgot. I opened my pack and took out the gift bag from Bloomingdales. You visited your mom today. I wondered where you were fifth period because he cuts class. Not a thing you're supposed to do. Her long fingers removed the items from the tissue paper. Ooh, I like this. She rubbed some moisturizer on her hand. A war erupted inside me. Please try on the lipstick. Don't try on the lipstick. On the one hand, I wanted any excuse to stare at those lips of hers. On the other, I needed to sleep tonight. She wanted to torture me. Of course, on went the lipstick. Is it too dark? She asked. I could feel her breath as well as see it. Her lips looked like ripe, juicy plums hanging on a tree. I shrugged and told her it looked okay. I'm not sure about this, she said. Larry's latest sermon really got to me about wasting money on stuff if we don't need it. Well, it was free, if that makes you feel any better. Oh, as a matter of fact, it does. You want to go log on? I followed her down to the basement, which was strewn with clothes and CDs. Why don't you see if Todd will reciprocate? His basement couldn't have been any worse than this. Yeah, right. He's on his way over right now. Luckily, there was no chance in heck of Todd actually doing anything resembling manual labor, so I had Beth to myself for a few hours. She clicked on her favorite places and then pulled up Larry's sermon. While she read the latest installment, I picked up her magic 8-ball and asked a question. Hang on, back to screen sharing real quick. Screen share. If you're not familiar with the magic 8-ball, shame on you. This is the magic 8-ball where you shake it and it comes up like a little answer and something for you. We have one here at my house too. That's the magic 8-ball. Yeah. Magic 8-ball and asked a question. Would Beth like Larry's new sermon? Would it resonate with her? I shook the ball, then turned it over. My sources say no. I may not have magic powers, but I bet you're going to be wrong this time, Mr. 8-ball. Josh, you have got to see this. I put down the not-so-magic 8-ball and joined her at the desk. Didn't I tell you? It's like he writes things just for you, no matter what you're thinking. Look! I dragged over a chair and read the latest from Larry. Sermon number 97. Okay, I've written a lot about the crap we fill our lives with. Possessions that tie us down, that only distract us from who we're trying to become. But what about the people we surround ourselves with? Are they people who ignite our passions, who spur us to greater self-mastery? Are your relationships full of meaning, or are you just going through the motions? Don't you want to dig a little deeper, reach another level, or are we all just looking for the easy, the convenient? The people we choose to spend our lives with are the people who share our journey. Are you surrounded by crewmates or pirates who hijack your time? It's spooky, she said. So it's so me and Todd. Yeah, I'm sure Larry was thinking of you two when he wrote it, I answered. I'm serious. There's no there. It's over. I shrugged in agreement, but my brain bounced between anticipation and fantasy. Besides, he eats meat, and I can smell it on his breath. It's disgusting. She jumped up and put her hands on her hips, determined. Back to more important things. Let's get going on the Larry Club. Hey, I wasn't the one ironing Letterman jackets all night. I took out the folder of notes I'd made the night before. We worked until her father nicely asked me to leave. Footnote, if standing at the top of the stairs and coughing is considered nice. She gave me her usual, you're my best friend, so it's so harmless to be close to you hug. I just hugged her back in that I'm perfectly content to only be friends way, and then headed home. As I walked down Kimball Street, I thought of all the things I forgot to tell Beth tonight, about the links we could set up from Larry's homepage, about how spring was only a few weeks away, about my conversation with Flip-Off Phillips that morning, and, oh yeah, Beth, one more thing. Did I forget to mention I'm Larry? Oh, I'm not much of a detail person. Footnote. Okay, so I strung you along a little. Big deal. I had to make sure you were with me at first. So if you'd not picked up on it, the main character talking, Josh, that's also Larry, the guy who runs the website. They are one and the same person. But you probably would have figured that out if you had taken the book and then turned it over to look at the back of it. It tells you on the back of the book right there. But for those of you who are too lazy to read the back, mind blown. Josh turns out to be that person that we find out about the entire time. So Josh is actually running the website, and that means he is kind of catfishing the girl he has a crush on because he's pretending to be a person he's not. But don't worry, everything turns out fine. Girls love it when you lie to them about things like this. It goes wonderfully. That is my life pro tip for all the boys out there. If you have a girl, lie to her and let me know how it goes. I'm sure it'll be all kinds of wonderful and fascinating. Thanks for all the thumbs up. Your homework is to not read. We're going to pick up again tomorrow and read because now that we've discovered this, there's definitely more coming because that's not the big reveal. The big reveal is still stuff to come. Thursday will be a shorter video. Those of you who want to run away, you're more than welcome to run away now. 1 second, we have this Caleb kid. Caleb, you're on the line. I feel like I'm doing some kind of radio talk show. Caleb, you were on the line, and then Caleb, I unmuted you. No. Caleb. Apparently you've muted yourself, Caleb, so I can't unmute you. That is not my fault. I take no blame for that one. Then other than that, make sure you guys turn in the homeworky thing. Let's see, real quick. Hang on, I'm going to be nice to you guys. For those of you who were too slow to take the picture earlier, I'm going to rewind to it. Aha. There you go. If you did not take your screenshot earlier, here again, you're going to log into Brovi42120 and then give me explain, don't just tell me what it is, but explain to me one negative thing that Josh does that annoys you and one positive thing he does that makes you want to be his friend, because the idea of you liking and hating Josh is going to play a big role in stuff coming up. So I want you thinking about whether you like or hate Josh for what he's been doing so far. All right. So then back to there. Tomorrow we'll have screen thing at the same time. No other kids with questions. Hopefully you guys are surviving coronavirus and all the fun things from there as best as you can. And then I sent out the thing to kids on there. I think that's it. No other kids who have rooms for me to creep on. Almost everyone's turned off their videos because you guys are not that much fun. I will give a shout out to Emily for not retaliating against Snow. Nicely done. I'm proud of you for being the bigger person on that one and not sinking to that attack. We'll give you a small heart on that one. Go you. Until tomorrow, when I'm sure you do find that embarrassing picture you're just not able to find yet, and the battle continues. And then that should be it. Other than that, if you guys have nothing else, send me messages, go do your other homework, go outside. There's actual sunlight outside today, and all kinds of wonderful things from there. All right, I guess that's all I have for you, unless you guys have random questions that you have to ask. If not, I have to go get ready for those regular kids. Enjoy, smile, stuff like that. All right.